Thank you, George. Premier just suggested that I make an advance announcement right now that I will be speaking at noon at 1 Post Street, Montgomery and Market on Wednesday, on the 19th, the 5th anniversary of the starting of the bombing. And as I understand it, Betsy Rose will be singing shortly thereafter as a lot of us, and you're all invited, lie down in the street at Market and Montgomery in front of Dianne Feinstein's office. And Dianne. And having seen the pictures of people lying in the streets like that over the last 5 years, it's been going on, I remember that they look very much like some pictures that we saw almost 40 years ago. Long time. Listening to Joe Wheeler just now, we had to be thinking, didn't we? Can Americans really have acted this way? Could that be an American who held up the head and who acted that way? What's going on here? Is that some kind of an aberrant monster that somehow found his way into the ranks of our brave soldiers? We haven't heard mentioned today something that happened 40 years ago today, March 16th, 1968, in a village called Vigil, where American soldiers, no less brave, no different really from the ones we're sending over now to Iraq, were carrying out their orders, nearly all of them, were carrying out their orders to kill everything that moved in that hamlet. And there weren't any young men in the hamlet, there were only some very old men, and a lot of women, and a lot of children, and a lot of babies. And they killed, taking hours to do it actually, and stopping to eat what were then called K rations in the midst of it, and then going back to the work of killing. They killed 504 women, children, and babies. Under orders. That's what humans do under orders in a war like that. And that's what's happening now, of course, in Iraq, many times over. We've heard, I've seen occasionally figures of tens of thousands of civilian dead in Iraq. Even President Bush finally got himself to utter a figure, and he gave a figure, it's a very high figure, 40,000 dead, civilians dead. And that's echoed a lot now. We'll see tens of thousands of civilian dead. That's exactly as if you were seeing in the paper day after day, and after all, hundreds of American soldiers have died in Iraq. 4,000 American soldiers, 10 times hundreds, 400. How many have died in Iraq? Try 10 times 40,000, try 20 times, try 30 times. The best estimates that have come out in Lancet, in other words, are 1.2 million. That's 30 times 40,000. Now, somebody killed them.
In their home.
And those people like Joe Wheeler, we're honored to be here with today, who's telling us what it's like. Except, as he said, he didn't choose to do that. When he looked out and he saw it was in an urban area and he saw who was out there. Well, there was somebody like that on Mila. 40 years ago today, a sergeant named Michael Bernhardt saw what was happening, saw what he was being ordered to do, took his M16 at the time and turned it with muzzle to the ground. He wasn't going to be shooting anybody that day. Knowing very well that to do that, making himself a potential witness against war crimes, is something like suicide in a situation like that. Knowing that he might very well come up with a fatal accident very shortly. And there was one other, he refused direct orders of Lieutenant Calley and others to fire. He said no. And Hugh Thompson, a warrant officer who had been directing fire looked down, saw there was only women and children from a few hundred feet, and I've been in helicopters in Vietnam. You can see very, very well from a few hundred feet, even from 1,000 feet. You can see the faces, you can see what's happening. And he looked down, he saw who was being shot, what was happening. He ordered his helicopter to go down near a ditch where Vietnamese women and children, teenagers, huddled in the ditch. Some had been shot already. And he got down and he was determined to rescue some of them, except that some American troops were coming toward them with their M16s ready to carry on what they'd been told to do. And that was the shoot. He told his gunner on his helicopter with 50 caliber machine guns, he said, point those guns at those Americans. At those, he didn't say Americans, he said soldiers. He said, if they shoot at us, he and his son got about, they were rescuing babies, and a 17-year-old girl and a 15-year-old girl got into the helicopter. If they interfere with what we're doing, shoot. Now, he could fly away and do that. Bernhard, I don't know whether he considered doing what he could have done, citizens arrest, Kelly and the others who were clearly committing war crimes, murder in front of his eyes. When we say 400,000, 40,000, 400,000, 3 times 400,000 people killed over there, we're looking at My Lai writ large on a huge scale. That is Iraq. And I was very glad that my friend Justin Raimondo, and I should say, my homepage is antiwar.com. It's the first thing I read in the morning. Thank you, Justin. And Justin talked about Iran. I was very glad that he focused on that. Yes? How could we be doing this after Vietnam? Well, Vietnam was 35 years ago. But talking about that is, read this week's Esquire, just on the stands now, the article that he referred to, Barnett, about Admiral Fallon, who was fired apparently for this article within days of its appearing. Because the theme of the article was that for as long as he's been in office, Fallon has been saying, Iran, not on my watch. It will not happen. Now, as I was saying, it does seem amazing to think, it's not so amazing to me, I'm 76 now, to think that 35 years after Vietnam, we could forget what we did in Vietnam and what our children did and what we did passively in Vietnam. But 5 years after Iraq, after the shock and awe, we could be preparing another shock and awe. That would be hard to believe. In any case, Fallon, like the warrant officer, Thompson, like Sergeant Bernhard, was saying, no, I will not take that order, not on my watch. And that is a warning of what? Insubordination? No, a warning of a determination to stand by the law, by the UN Charter, and not to commit aggression. And an advance warning to the president, and said, in order to carry out the war that apparently the president wants on Iran, they will have to fire Fallon, and that may happen soon, said the article. Read the article, it's right on the stand now. And of course, as you read it, you know that last week Fallon was fired. So that could not be more ominous, and it means that we are being tested. We are not on that field, and we now say, do we follow orders, do we salute, do we go along with a war like this, or do we tell our Congress people, do we tell Nancy Pelosi, for example, there must be the hearings that have not been held on Iran, on Iraq. No hearings have been held on that, and you must subpoena Admiral Fallon, and you must subpoena the other Joint Chiefs. Blindly sleepwalk through this and let this happen without demanding that the people that we put in there do not carry out that task and do not avert this war in Iran, then we are responsible. Finally, as I said earlier, I invite you to be on Market in Montgomery on starting at 10:30, I think it is, on 19th, and of course there'll be a lot of other things going on also. I invited to several other things today, but I said, no, I'm going to be arrested at noon, and I think shortly after noon,